Dear all, welcome to another session of Constitution of India. In this session, I will discuss the topic Official Language from Module 5. I am Lakshmi Vijay Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Basic Science and Humanities, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. Language is a vital part of human connection. Language allows us to share our ideas, thoughts and feelings with others. It has the power to build societies but also tear them down. When we think about countries around the world, many of us just assume that each country has one or more than one official language. A country's official language or languages are nationally recognized and are generally used in official purposes. These languages are also likely used in domestic, commerce as well as in the education system of the land. An official language is a language that is given a special legal status in a particular country, state or other jurisdiction. Typically, a country's official language refers to the language used within its government, its courts, parliament, administration, etc. to run its operations and conduct its business. The official language is established by law and protected by the government. Languages offered a special problem to the makers of Indian Constitution simply because of the plurality of languages used by the vast population of the country. It is somewhat bewildering to think that no less than 1,632 spoken languages, including 63 non-Indian languages, are current in Indian subcontinent. India is a special case because hundreds of languages and dialects are spoken throughout the country, making it one of the most linguistically diverse parts of the world. On a federal level, there are two official languages, Hindi and English. The various states also have the power to declare their own official languages. The country really has 22 official languages. What is the need of an official language? India is a democratic country with mixed cultures, traditions, languages. India has a diverse list of spoken languages among different groups of people. It has been rightly said about the language of India. Indian language changes every few kilometers just like the water. This means you can be in one state where Bengali may be the official language and then visit another region and learn that Telugu is that state's official language. An official language ties people together in countries with linguistic fragmentation. Apart from few exceptions such as India and Australia, almost all countries have national language. A national language may also be an official language in a country like Bengali in Bangladesh. Although most of the countries have one official language, a country may have more than one official language for historical, political and linguistic reasons. Let us examine the difference between national language and official language. A national language is a source or sign of identity for a nation or a country. National language gets its status because it is spoken by majority of the population as the first language. An official language is a language that is given a special legal status in a particular country, state or other jurisdiction. Typically, a nation's official language will be the one used in that nation's courts, parliament and administration. Let us examine the main differences between the national language and official language. The national language defines the people of the nation, culture and history. Official language defines the existence of legislation and sovereignty of the nation. A national language by default can become the official language. An official language has to be approved legally to become the national language. An national language used for general communication and official language is used for official communication. National language is a socio-cultural manifestation. An official language is a politico-geographical manifestation. After gaining independence from the British in 1947, the leaders of the new country took the issue of a national language seriously.
On one hand, one language would help unite the vast population, but on the other, they realized that it would be difficult for everyone to accept only one language at the expense of their regional languages. The first candidate was Hindustani, a language comprising what is known as Hindi and Urdu. It had the support of Mahatma Gandhi, but after the breakup into India and Pakistan, the case for Urdu became weaker since most of the Arabic writing population left. Finally, Hindi was chosen as the language with the highest number of speakers, and in 1950, the Constitution of India specified that official language would be Hindi in Devanagari script and that English would be phased out by 1965. Despite planning, the decision led to violent protests by groups who felt that Hindi was imposed on them, especially in the states in the south, where most people spoke languages of the Dravidian family very different from Hindi. Let us examine the provisions of the Constitution relating to official language. Part 17 of the Constitution deals with the official language in Articles 343 to 351. Indian Constitution has different languages to deal with various institutions. Language of the Union, regional languages, language of the judiciary and texts of law, special directives.
Official language of the Union. The Constitution contains the following provisions in respect of the official language of the Union. Hindi, written in Devanagari script, is to be the official language of the Union, but the form of numerals to be used for the official purposes of the Union has to be the international form of Indian numerals and not the Devanagari form of numerals. However, for a period of 15 years from the commencement of the Constitution, the English language would continue to be used for the all official purposes of the Union for which it was being used before 1950. Even after 15 years, the Parliament may provide for the continued use of English language for specified purposes. Official Language Commission. The Constitution provides for the appointment of a commission as well as a committee of Parliament to advise the President to certain matters relating to the official language. At the end of 5 years and again at the end of 10 years from the commencement of the Constitution, the President should appoint a commission to make recommendation with regard to the progressive use of Hindi language, restrictions on the use of English language and other related issues. A committee of Parliament is to be constituted to examine the recommendations of the Commission and to report its views on them to the President.
Regional languages. The Constitution does not specify the official language of different states. In this regard, it makes the following provisions. The legislature of a state may adopt any one or more of the languages in use in the state or Hindi as the official language of that state. Until that is done, English is to continue as official language of that state. For the time being, the official language of the Union would remain the link language for communication between the Union and the states or between various states. But two or more states are free to agree to use Hindi for communication between themselves. Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Bihar are some of the states that have entered into such agreements. When the President is satisfied that a substantial portion of the population of a state desire the use of any language spoken by them to be recognized by that state, then he may direct that such language shall also be officially recognized in that state. This provision aims at protecting the linguistic interest of minorities in the states. Language of the judiciary and texts of laws. The constitutional provisions dealing with the language of the courts and legislation are as follows. Until Parliament provides otherwise, the following are to be in the English language only. All proceedings in the Supreme Court and in every High Court. The authoritative texts of all bills, acts, ordinances, orders, rules, regulations and bylaws at the central and state levels. However, the governor of a state, with the previous consent of the president, can authorize the use of Hindi or any other official language of the state in the proceedings in the High Court of the state, but not with respect to the judgments, decrees, and orders passed by it. Similarly, a state legislature can prescribe the use of any language with respect to bills, acts, ordinance, orders, rules, regulations, or bylaws. But a translation of the same in the English language is to be published. The Official Language Act of 1963 lays down that Hindi translation of acts, ordinance, orders, regulations, and bylaws published under the authority of the President are deemed to be authoritative texts. Further, every bill introduced in the Parliament is to be accompanied by a Hindi translation. Similarly, there is to be a Hindi translation of state acts, ordinance in certain cases.
Special directives. The Constitution contains certain special directives to protect the interest of linguistic minorities and to promote the development of Hindi language. In this regard, the Constitution makes the following provisions. Every aggrieved person has the right to submit a representation for the redress of any grievance to any officer or authority of the Union or a state in any of the languages used in the Union or in the state, as the case may be. This means that a representation cannot be rejected on the ground that it is not in the official language. Every state and a local authority in the state should provide adequate facilities for instruction in the mother tongue at the primary stage of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. The President can issue necessary directions for this purpose. The President should appoint a special officer for linguistic minorities to investigate all matters relating to the constitutional safeguards for linguistic minorities and to report to him. The President should place all such reports before the Parliament and send to the state government concerned. The Constitution contains the 8th schedule. At present, the 8th schedule of the Constitution specifies 22 languages: Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, Dogri, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Maithili, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Oriya, Punjabi, Sandali, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu are the 22 languages specified in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. Parliament enacted the Official Language Act in 1963, which provided for the continued use of Hindi for official purpose along with the English even after 1965. The Act was amended in 1967 to stipulate that the use of English would not end until a resolution to that effect was passed by the legislature of every state that had not adopted Hindi as its official language, as well as by each house of Indian Parliament. The main features of Official Language Act 1963 are the continuous use of English language for official purpose of the Union and for use in Parliament, authorized Hindi translation of central acts, authorized Hindi translation of states acts in certain cases, optional use of Hindi or other official language in judgments in the state communications.
One of the reasons people feel very strongly about issues related to national language or the imposition of a language is because language is at the core of an individual's identity. It is in a language that an individual conceptualizes and communicates his thoughts, which enables him to actively participate in society. Language is the most important tool of participation in the polity of a state, and not being able to speak in the dominant language of a state can have a serious impact on individuals' employment, educational and recreational opportunities. This leads to discrimination and injustice. According to V.K.R.V. Rao, was an Indian politician, economist and educator, pleads for patient and national approach to the problem of language. He believes the focus should not be on establishing one language but should be shifted to strengthening the official languages whose importance cannot be disregarded. At the same time, the convenience, in fact, the necessity of having one or more languages as the official language or languages for the center state and interstate communication for political, economic, legal, and even social reasons cannot be disputed. Thank you.